Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is May 27th, 2024, and there's been a change of plans as far as Hansi Flick's arrival. Also, it's been revealed how much Joshua Kimmich would want in salary, and that definitely complicates the situation for Barcelona. And finally, Xavi Simons is set to wait for the club. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo and this is the Barca News live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only do I get to share the Barcelona news with you, but I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments out loud, answering your questions, and getting a discussion going. For those of you who will be watching when the live stream ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through all the discussion. Now, having said all of that, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. All this helps the channel continue to grow. And if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the kit bag. And if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure you hit the Bet Us. Both links for kit bag and Bet Us are down below in the description. Now, let's begin with the news because there is a change of plans for the arrival of the new Barcelona coach or the future Barcelona coach, Hansi Flick, who was set to arrive in the city of Barcelona today, Monday, May 27th, and where Barcelona were expected to announce the arrival of Flick as Barcelona's new manager, but that has all changed, and now Flick will arrive later because he himself requested it. Now, everything was set for the arrival of Flick. The German media outlets had all their headlines ready, the prints ready, everything was good to go. But then Flick told Barcelona that out of respect for Xavi Hernandez, he doesn't want to arrive in the club until the whole contract situation is resolved. Because, of course, Xavi does have a contract until 2025. Barcelona have to reach an agreement with the coach in order to determine whether they're going to pay him his entire remainder of the contract, just part of it, maybe nothing. But that negotiation still has to, be finalized. And until that negotiation is finalized, technically, Xavi Hernandez is still Barcelona's coach. So out of respect for Xavi Hernandez himself, Hansi Flick has requested from Barcelona that he wants to arrive later once the negotiations are done. It's expected now that he could arrive around Wednesday. Some people were saying Tuesday. Now some people are saying Wednesday. So definitely this week, but Hansi Flick wants to wait until everything is resolved. Once Barcelona have completely liquidated Xavi Hernandez's contract and completely parted ways with the Barcelona current manager, then they will call Flick, tell him, okay, you can come, and Flick will arrive because, again, he doesn't want to arrive before all this is finalized out of respect for Xavi Hernandez, given that Xavi is an absolute legend of the club. Now, Flick also doesn't want a repeat of what happened with Koeman because, as you might recall, when Koeman was first fired, Xavi arrived in the club, but the clubs were still not done with Koeman. They were still negotiating. They were still trying to figure out, how much money they were going to pay him. So Flick doesn't want a repeat of that. He wants Barcelona to completely sever ties with Xavi, and then he will arrive in the club. Now, it was being said that Barcelona were expecting to finalize the negotiations with Xavi today. I haven't heard anything, so maybe the negotiations will continue into tomorrow. It's expected that Xavi Hernandez will forgive the final year of his contract. However, that he still wants to negotiate the contract of his staff because it seems that for now, Xavi Hernandez is planning on taking a 1 year off, a 1 year sabbatical. So obviously Xavi, he's a multi-millionaire. He can afford to take a full year off, but his staff, they're not, as wealthy or well off as he is. So he would like to negotiate his staff's contract, and it's expected that Barcelona will pay around 3 to 4 million euros for Xavi Hernandez's staff for that final year of contract, which expires in 2025. Now, new news. This is new news. This is an exclusive breaking news. It's now been revealed how much Hansi Flick will earn at Barcelona, and it's only going to be 3 million euros net. Very, very low salary for the German manager who, as I told you before, was willing to accept whatever salary Barcelona would give him because he really, really wanted to come to the club. So he's only going to earn 3 million euros net as opposed to what Xavi was currently earning, which is 8 million euros. So incredibly low salary for Flick. And between what Barcelona will have to pay Xavi's staff, which is 3 to 4 million, and Flick's 3 million salary, this makes definitely the operation a lot more affordable. And there's going to be no problem in bringing Flick and registering his contract, which has been announced officially that Flick will be signing a 2-year contract until 2026. And of course, he's only bringing 2 people with him on his staff, which I discussed in a previous video. Now, Flick has a second demand. This one didn't want to arrive in the club until Barcelona had severed ties with Xavi completely out of respect to him. But the second demand is that once Barcelona have completely severed ties with Xavi and Flick arrives, he doesn't want to have an official presentation until much later. And the reason for this is that Flick wants to arrive at the club. He wants to know the full situation of the club. He's already aware of the sporting situation because he has spent the last 3 months studying the first team, studying the academy. So Flick is already aware of the sporting situation, but he's not fully aware of the financial situation. So he wants to come to the club. He wants to talk to the president, to the board, find out what's the financial situation of the club, what's the financial fair play situation of the club, how much room is the club going to have to maneuver in the summer. He also wants to, get to know the politics of the club, the inner workings of the club. He wants to get to know, the media outlets, which media outlets get invited, which ones are friendly, which ones are not, what kind of questions he's allowed to answer. He wants to know everything pretty much. That way, once he is presented, there's usually a press conference after a presentation, he can be 100% prepared. So Flick doesn't want to arrive, get presented, and then the press start hounding him with questions, and he's like, oh, I don't know, guys, I just arrived. Then he's going to look not good. Flick has always had a reputation of a very serious coach, of a coach that's always prepared. So he wants to keep that reputation. He doesn't want to arrive and then look like he has no idea what he's doing by being caught off guard. Instead, he wants to arrive, get to know the situation, and once he's familiar with the inner workings of Barcelona and the financial situation of Barcelona, then he would want to be presented. That way, during the press conference, he can answer all the questions without having to hide behind, oh, well, I just arrived, so I have no idea. So those are the 2 requests of Flick. Number 1, he doesn't want to arrive until Barcelona have completely severed ties with Xavi out of respect to him. And the second request is that once he arrives, he wants to be presented later, once he has, gotten to know everything. That way, he can be prepared for that press conference. All right, so that is it for Flick. Let's do the comment section, and then we will talk about Joshua Kimmich and how it's become a little bit more complicated for Barcelona's prospects to bring him. And Trickshot Meister says, so what do you think of Xavi's warning to Flick? Also, I saw last week Memphis is leaving Atletico on a free this summer. I'd like to bring him back so Roca has 2 veterans to learn from. Thoughts? You know what? I was very disappointed with Xavi Hernandez's post-match press conference yesterday. I think it was another disastrous press conference like the dozens that he has made. I was going to make a video about it, but then I figured, he's gone. What's the point? But if you guys want me to make a video about his press conference and why I think was yet another disaster, let me know in the chat section. I'll definitely do one. But, disappointed. But at this point, it was expected because that's all Xavi has done during his press conferences. Embarrass himself time and time again. I have no idea why the club never told Xavi, hey, look, we're going to put you through training with our communication department so you learn how to handle these questions instead of, embarrassing yourself, embarrassing the team, embarrassing the club. But that's not, that's beyond me. As far as Depay, no. Depay should have never came to the club to begin with. The only reason we brought him is because we were in a bad financial situation. That's all we could afford. So, no, let's not bring Depay back. All right, let's see. What else? Riley says, Kimmich ain't buying that skellum of understanding, full salary paid in the hand. I will talk about Kimmich in a little bit. Hope says, hey, Mo, I think Barca should find another young pivot we can depend on for years because Kimmich is aging and he won't be a long-term solution. If Kimmich comes, he won't be a long-term solution. It will be, for the next 3, maybe 4 seasons. The long-term solution is Marc Bernal. That's the club's long-term solution. The 16-year-old Marc Bernal, who the club consider is the future pivot of the team, but of course he's still young. He's still learning. So Barcelona need to bring someone experienced for the short term, for the next 3-4 seasons, until, to give Marc Bernal more time, and then Marc Bernal can take over. But that's the long-term solution, is Marc Bernal. All right, Monster Lou says, when is the Camp Nou going to be ready? It's gonna be at the end of this year. They're saying December, around there. And Sherkute says, Mo, Alan Obando will be signed for first team or under Marquez. And what about signing of Marcos Parriego and Ibrahim Diarra? Diarra will be Barca Athletic for sure. Marcos Parriego, I'm not sure. I've heard Juvenil A, I've also heard Barca Athletic, but Ibrahim Diarra will be Barca Athletic for sure. And one more, Hope says, and for my agenda on Xavi, I think he's a good young coach, but he needs more experience because Barca is a big club and not like Atletico and other teams to run, because we are always expecting more. I agree with you. I think Xavi made a big mistake coming to Barcelona ahead of time. I think he should have gotten more experience, but, hindsight 2020, I guess. Is that the saying? Whatever. Anyways, let's talk about Joshua Kimmich. As you know, Kimmich is looking to leave Bayern Munich this season. He considers that to be a done chapter. There is a chance that he could stay, but for now, it looks like he wants to leave. Of course, his contract expires in 2025. Since he hasn't renewed, Bayern Munich are also looking to offload him, because this will be their last chance to offload him and make money. If they don't, obviously in 2025, he would leave as a free agent. Now, as a result of this, Barcelona have been tracking him now for quite some time, because for the first time in a long time, this will be an opportunity to sign Kimmich, because Barcelona have always liked Kimmich in the past. But of course, there was absolutely no chance Bayern Munich would be willing to sell him. But now, since they are, this will be Barcelona's chance to sign a player that they've wanted to sign for quite some time. Now, what's the problem? The problem is that today, German media outlets have been revealing that Joshua Kimmich is looking for a high salary. So Joshua Kimmich is looking to go to a club that's willing to make him one of the highest paid players on their squad, because he realizes, he's about to be 30. His career is coming to an end. So he wants to sign one more big contract, 2-3 seasons where he can earn a lot of money. That way, he secures his retirement. And that, of course, complicates things for Barcelona, because Joshua Kimmich's current salary is 19.5 million euros. 19.5 million euros. So close to 20 million euros is his current salary. He's going to want either something very similar, like around 20, or maybe even higher, because again, he's looking to sign one last big, high, lucrative contract for the next 2-3 seasons so he can secure his retirement. And this, of course, makes it almost impossible for Barcelona, because Barcelona cannot afford to be paying a salary around 19.5 or 20 million or higher. So that makes things very, very difficult for Barcelona and their chances to sign Joshua Kimmich. Now, of course, things could change once Hansi Flick arrives. If Hansi Flick says, hey, I want Kimmich, and maybe he calls him up, and since they have a really good relationship because they play together at Bayern and at the German national team, maybe they could change things. Maybe Kimmich decides, okay, I'll agree to lower my salary. But I see it very, very difficult, because even if Kimmich decides to lower his salary, how much more is he going to lower it? Is he going to go from 20 to 10? I doubt it. And even if he does lower it to 10, to give a player who is 30 years old a 10 million euro salary, that's net, of course, gross will be 20 million. To give him a 20 million gross salary, plus have to pay his transfer fee, which is not going to be cheap. Bayern Munich are going to want around 30, 40 million for a 30-year-old. To me, that doesn't make sense. I would rather spend that money on someone who's in their prime, 24, 25, or even I would rather spend less on an up-and-coming player, on a young player that can come to Barcelona, and that way that's not big of a risk, right? When you sign a young player, if he works out, great. You just got a star for very little money. If he doesn't work out, who cares? You only spent a little bit. You're not going to lose out money. And plus, he's still young, so you can sell him and recover that money. Versus you spend all that money on a 30-year-old whose value is already declining because of his age. And if he doesn't work out, you're screwed. Now you're stuck with a player that is not working out for you, spending a lot of money on him, and you cannot amortize that money. So all of that goes as losses on your books, which only affects the financial fair play in a negative way. But anyways, that's the news. German sources confirming that Joshua Kimmich will be looking for a high lucrative contract for the next 2-3 seasons, which Barcelona cannot afford to give him. There were some media outlets saying that Barcelona had made an offer and Kimmich rejected it. That's absolutely not true. There's no official offer. Barcelona have simply been, reaching out to the player through intermediaries, through people that know him, through players that know him, but there hasn't been any official offer. That news is false. But the news that he does want a high salary is true, which makes it a very difficult operation for Barcelona. Anyways, let's do more comments, and then we will have to talk about Xavi Simons. I guess we're always going to have a Xavi on a team. We had Xavi Hernandez, and now it looks like we could have a Xavi Simons, who, by the way, is named Xavi because of Xavi. All right, let's see. Sanjak says, do you think our academy players can switch from our regular tiki-taka Barca style to Flick style? Flick style is still the same. It's still possession-based, fast transition, quick passes. That's what tiki-taka is. The only difference is tiki-taka is a lot shorter passes, but tiki-taka is the same thing. It's possession-based football, is quick passes, quick transitions, overwhelming the opponent with possession. That's exactly the same thing. The only difference is that Flick prefers, a little bit of longer passes versus the shorter passes that tiki-taka is known for. So it's the same thing. So it's not anything that big of a difference. Riley says, I think the reason for Flick signing that low-paid contract for fewer years is because he knows when renewing, they'll give him what he deserves. Probably. But at the end of the day, he really wanted to come. So, and Tizan says, hi, Mo, do you think the club can afford Flick demand? Not sure what demand you're talking about, but his salary will be $3 million, which is incredibly low, and Barcelona will have no problem to afford that. Superman says, can't wait for Lewandowski to score 30-plus goals next season under Flick. I hope so. I really hope so. I know he's capable of that. I mean, he is at 20-something this season, and he did reach 30 last season, and that's under a horrible system of play where he barely got the ball in the box, and he still managed to get 30 goals. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be able to do that next season. And Trick Chocolat says tiki-taka is dead. That's absolutely false. It's not. Many teams still use it. Manchester City use it. De Zerbi likes to use it. What else? A lot of the Bayer Leverkusen, what's his name? Xabi Alonso. Tiki-taka is not dead. Cruyffism is very much alive, and it's obviously adapted, but it's not dead whatsoever. And King Hud says, Buenas tardes, Mo. If you had to pick a squad for next season with departure, arrivals, and returns, what would it be? Good question. Obviously, in goal, would have Ter Stegen. And a right back, I would like to see Hector Fort and Koundé alternating. As my center backs, I would like to see Araujo and Cubarsí as our starters, with Christensen and Mika Faye as the two players rotating. And the left back, I would like to see Balde with maybe Alex Baye. We'll see how he does in the preseason, alternating with him. In our midfield, if we're gonna do the 4-2-3-1 formation, in the two, I would like to see Gundogan with someone more defensive. Maybe Christensen could be that defensive midfielder next to Gundogan. And then instead of having Christensen alternate with the center backs, we can have Martinez. So it would be Araujo, Cubarsí, Faye, Martinez in the center back positions, with Christensen and Gundo in that the double pivot. The line of three in front of the double pivot, I would want to see Lamine. In the middle, Pedri, doing kind of like that number 10 role. And on the left, you can have Fermin or Gavi. And of course, our front man would be Lewy. Now, if we bring Nico, then obviously Nico would be on the left with Lamine on the right, and you can have Pedri in the middle, alternating with Gabi and Fermin. And our front man would be Lewy, alternating with Bituroki. That would be my squad. Anyways, let's get back to the news, and then we'll do a lot more comments because this is the last bit of news. So let's get through it, and then we will talk about more comments. But let's talk about Xavi Simons, because Xavi Simons is set to wait for Barcelona. Now, I told you, I think it was last week, maybe the week before, that Xavi Simons, through his agent, had met with PSG. Of course, he's coming back from loan to PSG. His contract with PSG until 2027. So his agent traveled to Paris, met with PSG to see what's going to happen with the player. Are they going to offload him on a permanent basis? Are they going to loan him? What's going to happen? And during that meeting, I told you in my previous video that PSG had agreed that they were going to loan Xavi Simons. Now that, of course, was very beneficial for Barcelona because Xavi Simons has a special clause in his contract that allows him to choose what club he can go to if he's sent out on loan. So since PSG want to send him out on loan, he has that clause. He can choose what club he can go to on loan, and he wants Barcelona. He's been dying to come back to Barcelona ever since he left. So this definitely benefited the club. Now, what's the new news? The new news is that now French media outlets who are very close to PSG are confirming this news. So first, it was a lot of the reporters in Spain talking about this news. Now it's been confirmed by media outlets in France who are very close to PSG, including L'Equipe, which means that this is true. It's true that PSG want to send him out on loan, that he has that clause that he can choose what club he can go to, and that means that he will choose Barcelona, and as long as Barcelona agree, then Xavi Simons will don na Blaugrana next season. Now, more new news, and this is something we did not know. The new news is that once PSG met with Xavi Simons' agent and decided that they weren't going to count on him, instead they were going to send him out on, or they were going to offload him. They wanted to offload him on a permanent basis. However, PSG decided not to do that because had PSG offload him this summer, if PSG offload him this summer, PSV Eindhoven would get a cut of the sale. They would get a percentage of whatever PSG sell him for. But if PSG wait until next summer, summer 2025, and they sell him, PSV Eindhoven don't get anything. So when that meeting happened and PSG decided they weren't going to be counting on Xavi Simons, they decided instead of offloading him on a permanent basis, they would send him out on loan, and instead they would offload him in 2025, which that also benefits Barcelona because now this means that Xavi Simons could come to Barcelona on loan for one season, and next summer, 2025, Barcelona could sign him on a permanent basis because that's when PSG would like to offload him. And how is this beneficial for the club? It's beneficial because that gives us an extra year to generate more funds, to clear more space on our wage bill, to increase our wage limit. Of course, by 2025, our stadium will be open, so we'd have a lot more revenue. So that all plays in favor of Barcelona as far as their pursuit to get Xavi Simons. Of course, for now, everything is up in the air. We don't know who Flick is going to want. Xavi Simons is someone that Xavi Hernandez had requested. We'll see if Hansi Flick still wants Xavi Simons on his team. I can't imagine why he wouldn't say no. I think Xavi Simons would fit perfectly on the left. And since Hansi Flick likes to really depend on wingers or really depend on attacking from the flanks, Flick likes to overload the opponent's box with a lot of players and then attack from the flanks and have the flanks centering balls to the box. Since you already have Lamine Yamal on the right, Xavi Simons on the left will be a very good alternative. And since he would be coming on loan, it would be an affordable alternative versus signing Nico Williams, who would cost us 50 million euros in his release clause. Xavi Simons would come for free. All Barcelona would have to do is cover his salary for that first year. So definitely good development in that operation. We'll see what happens. Again, everything's up in the air until Flick lands in Barcelona, which is, as I said at the beginning of the stream, it won't happen until Barcelona have completely severed ties with Xavi out of respect for Xavi Hernandez's legendary status. All right, Not the Gamer says, excuse me. Hey, Mo, sorry I haven't been in the live chat in a long time. I've been working hard during soccer, American football practice. Any updates on Iñaki Peña's sale? Iñaki Peña is not for sale. Barcelona will continue with Iñaki Peña. They already had a meeting with him. They discussed this. Both parties agreed to continue unless a club comes and offers Iñaki a starting position. If a club comes and says, hey, Iñaki, we want you to be our first goalie, in that case, Iñaki would leave and Barcelona would be okay with that. If that doesn't happen, Iñaki staying in Barcelona. Now, there is talks about Valencia. I think they're set to lose their goalkeeper this summer and that they could consider signing Iñaki or offering Iñaki his the first goal position or first goalie position, I should say. So if that happens, he would leave. If no other club offers him a starting position, then no, he will stay. B says, since the club is 100 mil short, What's our chances of signing and the youth prospects with Flick? All the youngsters like Diarra, Parriego, and company. So the club are intent on covering that €100 million deficit either through the Nike deal, by getting that €100 million signing bonus, or by getting a new investor to buy the stocks or the shares of Barca Vision that were sold to Libero, or by that loan that they currently negotiated. They have negotiated a loan, or they are negotiating a loan just in case, as an emergency, in case they cannot close the Nike deal or the Barca Vision deal by June 30th. So they are intent on covering that deficit. If that doesn't happen, it shouldn't affect the youth signings like Parriego and Diarra. That should not be affected. What's going to be affected is first team signing. Pretty much say goodbye to any signings if the €100 million is not covered. All right, let's see. Yanana says, I think Flick would do a good job. Just imagine Gavi, Fermin, and Yamal assimilating Flick's tactics. Oh, you are doing a good job. This is Ben from Ghana. Thank you, Ben from Ghana, for your message. And I hope so. I really do. I hope that Flick does do a good job. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And we all wish him the best. And Sean Babulal says, I don't think Barca need to spend money on a pivot. We can use Gavin? Or is that Gabi? And Casado. Gabi's not really a pivot, if that's who you meant. But Casado, yeah, there is a chance, of course. But let's remember, Casado is not experienced with the first team yet. So we cannot throw him in that position his first season in the first division and be like, all right, you're starting the pivot, because that's a very sensitive position in Barcelona. That's a very important position, and it's difficult to just throw someone with no experience in there because you might end up burning him. You might end up, you're throwing him to the wolves, and if he doesn't perform, you could end up cutting his career short. It's better to if we are going to use Casado, it's better to let him, play next season on a first team, alternating, playing a few minutes here, a few minutes there, get the experience, and then try him out. Versus just be like, all right, good luck, go have fun, and let's see what happens. Hope says, and a Kimmich age, I think we don't deserve to pay him that salary because his work rate and prime time can't be taking a salary close to Vini and Bellingham. I agree 100% with you. That's the thing about bringing players who are towards the end of their career, because they're always going to want those big salaries, right? Because they're trying to sign that last big contract and trying to make as much money and then leave, and that's it, retire, sail into the sunset. And that's a problem, right? Because you can't be spending that much money on older players, because we're not in position to be spending that money on anyone, let alone older players who are going to be done in 2-3 seasons. And in some cases, they're not even hungry anymore. They've already won everything there is to win, and now they're just playing to play, right? Versus a youngster like Fermin, who's just hungry for success, right? I don't know. If we're just going to spend money on signings, I'd rather spend it on someone young and risk it that it might not work out. But at least if it doesn't work out, you're only out a few mil, versus it doesn't work out like Rafinha, and now we're out 60-something mil. They're saying 66 now. 66 mil or 55 on Ferran, or, it just doesn't make sense. FC Barcelona fan channel says, I hope Flick have a plan ABC for the Kimmich role in his team, not like Erik ten Hag, who was obsessed with Frankie and his team can't function without Frankie. Well, we don't even know if Flick wants Kimmich. Kimmich was someone that Xavi Hernandez wanted, but we don't even know. Right now, what they're saying is that Deco has a bunch of operations, I guess dossiers, if you want to call it, different players that he was considering. And for now, everything's on pause until Flick arrives, because Deco wants to sit down and present to Flick everything, all the work he has done, all the players he's been watching, tracking, etc., and be like, all right, these are the players I've been working on. Tell me, what do you think? So for now, everything's up in the air. We don't know anything. We don't know who's staying, who's leaving, nothing until Flick arrives in Barcelona, which, again, is not going to happen until Barcelona completely sever ties with Xavi Hernandez. Shamar says, hey, Mo, do you think Casado can be a good CDM, and what are your expectations for next season? He could. I mean, he's an academy player. He's done well with Barca Athletic. He was the captain of Barca Athletic. He's led Barca Athletic to the playoffs. He could. But we have to see him first, because we've seen it time and time again, players who do amazing in Barca Athletic, and then they make it to the first team and they completely fail, right? That's one thing I used to say about Mika Fai. I used to say, look, I'm very excited for Mika Fai. I think he's very talented. He has a lot of potential, and I'm sure he's going to be great. But we should also pump our brakes because people are like, oh, Mika 5. It's like, calm down. Yes, he is doing great in third division. But how many times we've seen players do great in third division only to make it to first division and not be great? It's happened a million times. It happens more often than having a player who actually does great and continues to do great. So that's why we need to pump our brakes on these players. We need to, set our expectations low because that's how we end up completely burning these players to the ground. As far as the next season, don't expect anything. It's first season with a new coach. It's going to be a lot of changes in the squad, which means new players, new coach, new staff. Don't expect much. All right, let's see. Alexi says, do we actually need another midfielder with the way Flick plays? I mean, we have loads of talented midfielders. Sure, a pivot might be nice, but aren't there other areas that may need attention? Pivot. That's literally the number one area that needs attention because we don't have one. So the same with the left wing. So those are the two positions that need to be reinforced. And Nelvish says, hey, Mo, talking of Kimmich, I would prefer Onana in that position to Kimmich. We are already suffering enough with the Lenglet situation. Difficult to offload him. I'm not sold on Onana. I've said it a million times. The big defensive, strong midfielders like the destroyer type have never worked out in Barcelona because of the style of play. Those kind of midfielders are more built for the Premier League versus La Liga or Barcelona. I could be wrong, but I'm not sold on that. Not to say that Onana sucks or that Onana's bad. No, he's great. He's a great midfielder with lots of potential. I just don't think his profile fits the Barcelona profile, which is different than saying someone sucks, right? Ibrahimovic is a perfect example. He was one of the most prolific strikers of our era, and he didn't make it at Barcelona. Does that mean Ibrahimovic sucks? No, his profile didn't fit. And that's the same, I think, with Onana. King City says, Mo, I think people hold Barca tiki-taka to the Xavi and Iniesta days. Don't do days over. Those players are generational players. The level of those players is no longer. I don't think that's true. I mean, sure, we're not going to see the same players, but to say that we're not going to see talented players like that ever again, I don't think that's true. I think we constantly, look at Pedri. I think Pedri definitely has what it takes to become someone as good as Xavi Hernandez was. Same with Gavi. I think he could become as good as Iniesta. Lamine maybe not as good as Messi, but he could definitely be up there. So I don't think that's true that, that's it. We had a great generation and we're never going to have it again. In that case, football would have stopped at Pelé and that's it, right? But no, we've seen dozens and dozens of stars since Pelé, Maradona, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, Zidane, Messi. We constantly get good players and constantly get the bar higher and higher. Remember, Iniesta and Xavi didn't really hit their prime. They didn't really become really that good until 26 or 27. Pedri, Lamine, they're doing this. Pedri started at 18 at Barca or 19. Lamine is 16, right? So by the time they're going to be the age of Xavi and Iniesta, like Gavi, Pedri, all those people, Fermin, I think they could even be better. So I don't think it's true that that's it. We're never going to see a generation like that. Cabal says they should trust Barca. He is good enough to play as a defensive midfielder. That's the plan. Barcelona are ready to bet on him, and they want to instruct Flick to incorporate him into the first team. Nasty Barcelona fan channel says, Mo, we should have signed a manager who plays possession football. Apparently, there's a trend in England to sign manager. Flick does play possession football. And Alex Rodriguez says, Barca should consider giving Fati a second chance. Tell him to restart his career at Barca, renegotiate a 3-year contract at $2 million salary. No agreement, sell him whatever you can get. I think that door is closed. I think Barcelona are done with Ansu. And it looks like he's going to go to Sevilla. Trick Chocolate says, the story of Ansu Fati is an absolute Greek tragedy. I feel so bad for that kid. I do too. He was so promising. And unfortunately, his injuries just got the better of him. And as says, I think Messinho wants Barcelona and really so, just wants Barca to take him seriously and acknowledge his existence and get on with it. Barcelona acknowledges his existence. They like him. They've been tracking him, but he's not a priority. He plays as a right winger, which we have Lamine there. he also plays as an attacking midfielder, which we have plenty of those. So it doesn't make sense to spend 50, 60 million on a position that's already covered, whether it's the right wing or the attacking midfielder position, because right now we need to focus on two positions that are not covered, which is the pivot and the left wing. If Barcelona were in a much better financial situation where they could afford to get players they don't necessarily need, I have no doubts that Barcelona would have signed them. But right now we are counting our pennies, or counting our quarters, like, let me see, how much do I have? Oh my God. And we can't afford to spend a very little money on players to fulfill positions that are already filled. Mr. Goodbye says, Mo, do you think we should offload Frankie? At this point, I do. I love Frankie, but his incredibly high salary is just not sustainable. He also, I don't think he ever lived up to what we expected he was going to become. He never became the Frankie from Ajax. We never saw the Frankie from Ajax. He had his ups, he had his downs, but even at his highest, we never saw him achieve that. So at this point, yeah. Marcia says, is Nico Williams still the number one priority now? Flick is the trainer, and any news on Rafinha Ferran departure? So everything's up in the air. Deco had decided that Nico would become the left winger. Of course, like I said, Nico has a bunch of things, everything he's been working on, all the players he's been tracking, etc., scouting, all of that. He wants to sit down with Flick and go over it with him and see what his opinion is. Of course, the final decision maker will be Deco. Deco will take the final decision, but he still wants to consult with Flick. So for now, until Flick lands in Barcelona, don't assume anything, because we don't know anything. All right, one more, then we'll end this. But the Matrix says, I think we should remain humble until we get our finances and move back to a new stadium in order. We also need to plan to dominate. For now, I feel we are too patchwork. I agree with you, my friend. I think we should keep our expectations low and hope for the best. Hope for the best. All right. That is all, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are absolutely amazing. I will be uploading one more video. There's more news. I didn't want to put it all in the live stream, because that way it gives me more time to interact with you lovely people. If it's all just news, I don't get to interact with you guys. So I'll be uploading another video with more news. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Drop a comment giving me your thoughts and opinions about everything I share with you. And as always, Visca Barça.